Hey, wake up. Yeah. Got my man Dave, got my man Dan. You know what time it is, and this is 2-6. Yeah. Ask us, we seatbelts, boy. You better strap up. Conversations is controversy. It's time to act up. Carolina ballistics, where the precision's wicked. Tune in and listen. It get deep if you dig it. No reason to act tough. Carolina ballistics training academy. Ain't no reason to act tough. So listen up.
Hey guys, this is Dan. Sign up for classes, buy merch at carolinaballisticsta.net. That's carolinaballisticsta.net.
What's up? So, part 2 segment of What's on Dave's Mind. Here we go. So, we're going to talk about it today, man. Like I told you last time, these are things that when I'm driving in my car, just getting to think and daily my own thoughts, man. So, something I was thinking about is like changing your thinking. We're going to try to build on what we talked about last time. Changing your thinking. So we need to change our thinking. And the thing about that is that when I say that, I mean, we need to say what is failing. So Thomas Edison said, I never failed. I know in 99 ways it doesn't work. Which means when he was trying to create this light bulb thing, he said he kept trying different ways. And he didn't look at them as a way of failing. He looked at it as a way of learning. And there's the difference, is that little slight shift in mentality will make you actually be able to keep going. So instead of looking at things as failure, right, or not, then you look at it as an opportunity to learn, which will allow you to lose a little bit of the anxiety of going forward. But caveat to that, you need fear. Fear helps you go. Fear helps drive you. Without fear, then for me anyway, without fear, it's a way to make me push harder, because guess what? I'm afraid of failing, so I'll push harder to succeed. My next piece of this would be, how bad do you want it? That's a question you got to ask yourself. I always think to myself, if you want something bad enough, you'll figure it out, right? You'll make it happen. You'll push through whatever you need to push through to get something done if you want it bad enough. And then the question is, who do you want it for? If you want it bad enough for your family, for yourself, for people around you, then you're willing to push and go further than you usually do. My question to you on this would be this. Do your actions match your words? Are you living a life that you want right now? How bad do you want something? Okay? Well, if you want it bad enough, are you living a life that will get you to that goal? You can't tell me you want to be a professional basketball player, but you don't practice. You want to be a professional at anything, but you're not putting in the work. My thing says firearms instructor, so let's talk about that. If your job is to protect and serve or to defend the Constitution, right? That means they're giving you a gun to use it as defense, to protect someone else or to use it as a defense. Well, what that means is if you're not putting in the time, dry firing and all those things, well, guess what? Your actions aren't matching your life. So now what you're telling me is the time that you pull that gun out to actually put it into implementation and actually use it, you haven't put in the work behind the scenes. So you being able to use that gun effectively is going to be slim. So you have to live a life that allows you to reach that goal. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So the last thing is, the next piece of that actually is, do not look for an out. What do I mean by looking for that out? The world doesn't care what the fuck you've been through, bro. The world don't give a fuck. Like, hey, my dad was on drugs. The world don't give a fuck about that. My mom drank a lot. The world don't give a fuck about that either. Oh, my parents had me when they're young and I live in a bad environment. Guess who cares? Not me. The world don't care. So with that being said, then you can't care. You can't use those as outs. You got to say, you know what? These things are things that were in my way, but guess what? I am going to overcome them. It's a much better story. Everyone watches movies and motivational movies and all these things where a guy has so much going against him and he makes it through it all and he accomplishes something great or he accomplishes something with his life. Well, what made that motivation or what made that great was all the stuff he had to go through. It wasn't that he had an easy path and then, he made a lot of himself. Well, yeah, he had an easy path. So the guy who has a hard path and makes a lot of himself and makes himself successful, because a lot of yourself can be determined in a lot of different ways. I always say we have a thing where if we're not millionaires or playing basketball or football or making it rapping, well, you're not successful. That's not true. That is not true at all. So whatever you determine to be successful has to be that. That's on you. What you determine to be success. For me, my success is being a good husband, father, and provider for my family. Well, so far I've been pretty successful. Now, those goals have changed throughout my life, obviously. When I was younger, it was more like everyone else. I always want to play basketball and make it to the pros and do all. But as I got older, the reality sunk in. I was like, man, I'm not good enough to be a pro. So maybe my reality should become something else. Go to college and do this. So guess what? At the end of that, in my mind, I've been successful. Now, what's the next goal to keep going forward and deem success? Now, the whole thing about failing and changing your thinking is as you get older and as you get more responsibilities, now people are depending on you. So that whole hey, it's not failing, it's just learning. Well, guess what? When you fail, the people with you fail. So I always say it's a horse race. And when you're doing all these things and you're deciding what you're going to go with and how you're going to be, you got to bet on someone. You got to bet on something. So if you're going to bet on something, bet on yourself. If you're willing to bet on yourself, if other people are willing to bet on you, like if you got kids and they're betting on you, so you might as well bet on you too. And let's all bet on me and let's roll. Let's see what happens. So since the world isn't worried about what you've been through, you got to throw that away, man. I don't care that you lived in a bad neighborhood and that, the guys you grew up with, the only people you saw making it were rappers and drug dealers and all that stuff. Well, guess what? Drug dealers don't retire. I haven't met too many retired drug dealers, right? Unless you're in some kind of cartel, chances are you're not going to retire from that game. You're going to wind up in prison or dead. Don't know too many gang members that get to retire either. So, since we know that doesn't end with long-term success, how about you don't do it? Right? Now, since we're talking about that, I'm going to go into something else. Parents, you need to change your thinking. If you know your kid is out there doing something and doing bad things, then guess what you should do? You should address it and try to stop him. You can't be okay with it until the cops shoot him and then he's dead and now you're on the news talking about he was why did they do that? He was a good guy. No, he was a bad person and he was doing crime and then he got hurt. And now it's a problem. No, it was a problem before. You didn't want to address it. So address it. You got to change your thinking and actually become active in the life. Last thing I'm going to cover, man, is motivation versus discipline. This came to me when this got posted. My last one got posted on Facebook, and above me on the spot there, it said motivation. So I'm going to say, I am happy if this motivates you. I'm cool with that. I think that's great. But personally, fuck your motivation. Motivation will leave. Motivation will go away. When things get hard or difficult, everyone knows the guy who started a New Year's resolution to lose weight. And when he got done, guess what? He was motivated, but he wasn't disciplined. The things I'm saying, I hope they motivate you to start something, but I'd rather you take what I'm saying and use it in your life to become disciplined. If you can truly change your thinking, then it'll allow you to take more risk and go out and do things. If you understand who you're doing it for, that's your why. I always say, what's your why? If you understand why you're doing the things you're doing, then when things get hard, you have your why. I'm doing this for my family, so I'm going to get up and go. Because guess what? Getting up and going is a form of discipline. And if you're not looking for an out, guess what else that can help you do? That's a form of discipline. Like when someone says to you, hey, man, well, we understand, so let's go do this bad thing, or let's go, hey, because you had a bad life, we understand why you don't. No, I'm going to be disciplined, and I don't care about the life I had. I'm going to be disciplined in my approach on this and get something done. And the biggest thing is people get those like, oh, motivation and he needs to be motivated and this. No, with motivation will get you started, discipline gets you finished. Because motivation goes away. No matter what you're doing in life, you're not going to feel like it every day. You can love your job, but every single day you do not feel like getting up and doing your job. What keeps you getting up and doing your job? Responsibilities and discipline. If you don't have discipline, everything else is going to fall apart. These are the things I think about personally when I'm like, hey, man, I have to stay disciplined. And we're human. So what I mean by that is we're human. So guess what? All these things slip for me. There's times where I'm fighting the fact that, hey, man, I just don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel like dry firing today. I just don't feel like dry firing. And guess what? I have to sit to myself and say, man, I got to be disciplined. I have to be disciplined. And I go out, and even though I'm not feeling like it, I do it anyway. I just go do it. Now, some people be like, hey, well, you're not keeping it interesting. You think I give a damn if it's interesting? It's discipline. You think a guy who wants to play pro sports feels like shooting free throws every day is interesting to him? Or is he being disciplined in the craft that he's trying to create? If you're not going to be disciplined in the craft you're trying to create, that craft ain't for you. Sorry to tell you, if you won't show the discipline to put forth the effort to get past it and keep going, then that may not be your thing. Why? Because if it's your thing, you will use the discipline. If it's your thing, like if it's truly what you're chasing and God put on your heart, then you will use the discipline to make it to the next level. You'll find that discipline somewhere because you ain't always going to be motivated just because it's what you want to do. I guarantee you that. No one ever is. I think that that's all I got for you. I hope this helps one person. If it helps one person, it was worth it. If you can go ahead and let's talk about the topics again right before we cut out, guys. So changing your thinking, making sure you understand what's failing. And it's not failing, it's learning. If I could change failing, that word failing into learning, I'll keep going forward. How bad do you want it? That why. The why of why you want this, who you're doing it for. And does your actions in your life match your words? If the life you're living is not going to get you the gold you want, then why are you even doing the things you're doing? Change your life. Change the things you're doing so you can get to that goal. Don't look for an out. Society does not care. Like we can talk all that stuff and say, hey, society cares and society wants you to keep going and move forward and we want to help people. And yes, all that's true. You have empathetic and sympathetic people that will actually help. The reality is, there's a reason we have homeless because society doesn't care. There's a reason that we have problems in our world, because reality is people don't care, man. So with that being said, you can't care about the things you had to go through. You have to just strive and go at it. Now, motivation and discipline. Like I said, motivation will get you started. Discipline will get you to the finish line. So you need to take whatever started as motivation and get your mind to think, how can I make that discipline? This is Dave. I'm out.